Hello, welcome to ManHound Sound Sessions. I'm your host, Bill Wardlow. My guest today, Josh Ferreira. From Indiana to California and back again, Josh has got a story to tell. He's written some really great songs. He's an amazing performer and a hard-working guy. We had some good conversation, and I really enjoyed it. I hope you do as well. So here's my interview with Josh Ferreira. Hey Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me here, man. Appreciate it.
Good to have you finally.
Yeah. It took some calling and a lot of prompting to get me here. I know.
Well, I mean, it's been almost a year since you first contacted me, so
Yeah.
let's get right into it. How'd you get started playing?
Started playing in high school. I think it was probably right about my freshman year, heading to my freshman year of high school. My uncle bought me a guitar, a Samick, white Samick acoustic guitar. Looking back, it was a terrible guitar, but it was my first guitar. It was pearl white, and started playing on that. First song I learned how to play was "Every Rose Has Its Thorn" by Poison. Learned that song all the way through, and from there, that's kind of where it started. Right into high school.
How long did it take you to start writing?
I don't think I really started writing until I got out of high school. It took me actually working with other artists, other musicians to really start writing. I mean, I spent probably the first 4 years of learning guitar was basically just learning other songs. I don't think I wrote a song until I was probably 20 or 21. So I started playing at 16. So that was, a nice little 6 years, 5 or 6 years before I even started writing songs. And most of the stuff I was writing at that time was for a group. So I was actually in a rock band at that time. Was a rhythm guitarist. So the guy who was their lead singer of the band was actually the one who wrote the songs. I think maybe I wrote like maybe 1 or 2 songs, mostly just riffs and a few lyrics here and there. It wasn't until my mid-20s I actually started writing songs. So yeah, it took a while to get there.
Are any of those songs still around?
I don't know if they're still online or not. I don't think the songs that I wrote back then are online. There's a musician around Cincinnati named Aaron Hedrick. I actually met him when I was just coming out of high school, and I taught him how to play guitar. Taught him how to play acoustic, taught like basic chord progressions. I wasn't a great guitar player at the time either, but I was teaching him how to play, and he was the one who wrote. He actually I ran into him last year, and I talked to him on occasion, but he said he basically has a lot of tapes, like the old Memorex tapes of us in his garage at his mom's house and just sitting around like in, different people's homes, just playing acoustic guitar, playing the songs that he wrote. And I would like play lead to it and like come up with melody lines on electric guitar, but he still has that. Now I have, after he and I stopped playing together, I was in a band called Endive. Now that stuff is out there. I think that stuff you can find probably on the streaming services here and there. I'd have to look it up. I know they have a new female vocalist who's great. Her name's Faith, and they've released a couple albums with her. But I think they might have our first album up maybe on Spotify or Apple. I haven't even looked out for it at all. And I talk to those guys on random occasions. So,
when did you get into writing pretty heavily?
To be honest, it was probably about 10 years ago. So I'm 45 now. So I was 35, probably when I first really started writing. It's kind of an inspirational songwriter. Was never really prolific at it. There are people who sit down and just write me songs. I've been trying to change my ways on that. Actually forcing myself to sit and write these days. But about 10 years ago is when I started writing the songs that you're going to here today on the podcast actually are probably about 7 or 8 years old. A couple of them are newer. But yeah, so it was about 10 years ago is when I first started writing.
Until God Commands is one of those songs.
Yeah, it's one of the newer songs. Yes.
Let's take a break and listen to that.
All right.
Blue eyes fall down upon the shore, basking in the glory of the early evening glow. Mind is running circles, sometimes it's hard to just let go. At the end of it all, you see forever, staring down the ocean, the breeze upon your face. But your body's broken and you still don't seem to know your place. But I've got your hand, whatever you've got planned, until God commands. You know I'll see it through. Packed up and headed down the highway, eastbound our direction, trying to take it slow. Just vagabonds are wandering, no worries, just an open road. But I've got your hand, whatever you've got planned, until God commands. You know I'll see it through. Your hand, whatever you've got planned, until God commands. You know I'll see it through. I know you're feeling wanting trouble, but don't worry about tomorrow or even yesterday. Just lay your head down and dry your tears now. I'll be here when you wake, but I've got your hand, whatever you've got planned, until God commands.
All right, great stuff.
Thank you.
What's your process for writing?
My process for writing is I don't think there's really so much of a process. I am an inspirational songwriter. I think I said this in the first part. I've been trying to break out of that process of actually sitting down and writing, making myself write. But generally, songs I've written at this point have just kind of come out. I would say most of the time I have a melody idea in my head, and kind of that melody gets stuck there, and I start writing lyrics to the cadence of that melody. And then generally the chord progression will come. I have had a couple of songs where I've actually just had a chord progression I've been kicking around for a while. And generally what I'll do is I'll just sit down and I'll actually record that and then just listen to it. Sometimes to a deafening end where it's like, I really don't want to listen to that chord progression ever again, but it does eventually result in a melody and lyrics. So that's kind of the process. Not really any, I don't think there's no stroke of like lightning in a bottle kind of thing for me that makes it happen. So
You said you're trying to work on doing it more often. What are you doing?
well, I'm actually sitting down and making myself right. Like I'm actually taking time out of my day to even if it's for an hour.
You have like a set time you do that every day? And
No, it's not a set time. Generally it's earlier in the day, like, you're 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock. I'm a musician, so I can keep those hours. Nobody can say anything to me. um, but no, it's kind of like around that time, around, 9, 10 o'clock, I'll usually sit down and on certain days and just kick around, play the acoustic guitar. If I have a melody that's already in my head, I'll see what I can do about getting that melody transcribed out in the form of putting a chord progression to it. But it's basically more or less making myself try to write lyrics, try to, play chord progressions rather than waiting for something to happen.
now, do you ever deal with writer's block?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do. I deal with writer's block a lot. And I think it has to do with being an inspirational songwriter. Might get a couple songs out and then might go a month or two without anything. And that's part of the process of actually sitting down and making myself write. Even if I'm not playing music while I'm writing, it's a matter of doing it just to kind of get past that block. Because if you do nothing, it's like anything in life. If you don't do anything about it, it'll never get better. So,
Right. I know you mentioned a couple bands. What bands have you been in the past?
The first real band that I was in was called Eden Park. There was a songwriter in the Cincinnati area named Aaron Hedrick. I actually met him straight out of high school. He was actually the songwriter at the time. I might come up with riffs, might come up with a chord progression, but he was generally the songwriter. He just had a knack for it right out of the gate. So I played music with him from high school until like my 20s. And then I had left the band, came back, and he had the original drummer that was in Eden Park. Not to be confused, because there is an actual Eden Park band out there now who Drew Lanius, who's an amazing songwriter and singer. He actually fronts them, which, if you're from Cincinnati, there's an Eden Park. So that's probably where a lot of people have probably taken that from. But back to that. So basically when I got back in the band, we had another guitarist who took my place. His name is Doug Powers. And then John Morse was the drummer. We actually broke off and formed a group called Endive. And that's when I kind of took over actually writing and singing, being the lead singer, because I'd never been a lead singer before. That was a tough sell for me. So yeah, so those were the two groups that I had been a part of. And then after I was in Endive, I kicked around with a few other artists for a while. A guy named Bryce Grammer, who has a lineage of pickers from Nashville. He was an amazing guitar player. Did some shows with him, and then worked with a female vocalist named Samantha Merman, who I played with her up until I left Cincinnati about 7 years ago to move out to San Diego. So I was in two bands and then kicked around with a few other musicians after that.
Nothing out in San Diego?
No, I pretty much stuck to myself in San Diego. It wasn't until my last few months there that I actually started meeting a bunch of great artists out there. My wife had joined the Navy, so we moved out to San Diego, and I was playing a lot of cover shows out there in bars and restaurants. That's when I started writing a little bit out there, and it wasn't until the last 3 months we were out there. We had moved to Temecula about a year prior to moving back to Cincinnati. I got myself into a little bit of a scene out there. There were a couple of really good artists. There was a female vocalist named Heather Nation. She was a really good songwriter, very ethereal music, rock kind of music, almost Pink Floydish in a way. And then there was a husband and wife, Delaney and Company, that I met because of, I think his name was Kenneth Rexroad. He ran Rexroad Productions, and he did an invite-only open mic at Pala Casino up by Temecula. So I met Met the Delaney's, met them there, and they were just amazing. So it was a point where we were probably going to be doing shows together, talking to Ken about it. There's a possibility of doing some shows out there, but it just never came to fruition. I actually broke my ankle, was in a Halo cast for about a month and a half.
Oh.
And that's when we moved back to Cincinnati because my wife has health issues. So I was her caretaker. I couldn't take care of her if I couldn't move. So we moved back here for support from family members and friends. But yeah, it really sucked because that last 3 or 4 months I was out there, there was so much awesome stuff going on out there. Close to, I think it was Riverside County. I think it was, but there's like Temecula, Fallbrook. Actually, Jason Mraz lived out in that area too. I think he kind of was from Fallbrook, if I remember correctly, or from around that area. But it was weird because there was this whole singer-songwriter kind of Southern rock country vibe happening in that one area. And it was amazing. But obviously what happened to me, and you know, if you could ever talk to my wife about this, this is the story of how, this is a very quick story. Basically, I broke my ankle. I took my daughter roller skating. Hadn't been roller skating in 20 years. Thought it'd be a great idea.
That's never a good idea.
Never. And so I took her, and so we were skating around for about 25 minutes. She hung to the wall, and I was like, after about 25, 30 minutes, I'm like, I'm going to go around. I felt like, I felt confident again. I felt like my 20-year-old self or teenage self who would go roller skating all night. Went around twice and then fell, and I heard like a pop, and yeah, I couldn't get back up. I broke my ankle in 3 places.
Oh.
And I call my wife as the medics are getting there to take the skate off and get me wrapped up to get me to the hospital. And I call my wife and I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to the hospital. I broke my ankle. Took Lucy roller skating." And she's like, "I thought you were taking the car in to get the oil changed." Like, yeah, ankle broken. That's where I'm at right now. So this is yeah. But she turned it off.
Did you get the oil changed?
It took another. Honestly, we didn't even get the oil change until I was back on my feet because she didn't drive.
Oh,
so she did drive. She was very rare. Like she could run to the store, which is like right around the block from us, but because she had some seizure issues and things like that, so she was kind of limited on what she could do in driving. Yeah, it was one of those moments where you have as a married person where like you should have been doing something else, but because you did this thing and you got hurt, I'm not going to feel sorry for you.
That's just horrible. I don't know where to go for now.
I know.
It always sucks with a broken ankle.
Yeah, it does. And it was, I could show pictures. I've had pictures up on my Instagram for a while now. It was a pretty gruesome thing. I had 2 pins on the front of my, I guess it's the tibula, the bottom part is the tib. The tibula and the fibula is the top part, if I remember correctly. So in the tibula, I had 2 pins in the front and then 1 through my ankle. And I had like the halo that went basically from about 10 inches below my knee all the way down to my ankle. And it was like 8 pounds of metal. Like to get up was excruciating pain. Yeah.
So then you moved back to Cincinnati.
Moved back to Cincinnati. And I've regretted it ever since. Yeah. No, I grew up in this area, but I mean, because of what was happening out there, it was kind of like it was very difficult moving back here because I was still healing and I had to start over when I got back here.
Right.
So, you go from this high of finally finding this group of people that you really share a great connection with musically, and then you're not going to be around those people anymore. And it really did suck. I mean, and I don't blame, it wasn't Ohio. It wasn't because Ohio was terrible. It was just because I had gotten to a point where I was like, things are actually starting to go somewhere. My music was being heard. I was getting able to play. I had the opportunity to possibly do some really good shows. There's a place called the Belly Up Tavern. That was my phone. Sorry.
Oh.
There's a place called Belly Up Tavern out in Southern California. I think they have a couple different places, kind of like the Fillmore had, like Fillmore East and West.
Right.
I think Belly Up had a couple different venues, but because I was working with Rexroad Productions out there, there was probably a pretty good chance that if I continued down that road, I was going to be doing some shows and maybe even doing some regional stuff and hopefully getting somewhere with my music finally. And then like I decided to go roller skating one day. And now look,
You should have changed the oil instead.
I should have changed the oil and things would have been here. But obviously I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. So, you know,
That's true.
things being what they are, I can call that even.
So you get back to Cincy. How long did it take you to get back to playing shows? And
it was a oddly enough, I think I had more of a higher hopes of how quickly it was going to go, because when I left here, I was playing a bunch of places. I'd gotten had made a lot of good connections here. But of course, if anybody knows who plays cover shows or plays venues, especially like restaurants and bars, they kind of get their group of people that they book all the time. And even though I had a history with most of these places, those people got, you know, first dibs on all the dates, and I would get like the leftover stuff. So I think when I moved back here, we moved back November of 2017. I think I had 2 shows in December, and one of the places I played didn't have anybody for New Year's, so they booked me. And it probably wasn't until March or April of the following year where I was actually playing consistently. But of course, I was back into playing cover shows, and I really wasn't doing a lot of original music, which was kind of a bummer. But then you're going to hear a weird thing. It sounds like R2D2. I'm sorry, guys, but that's my phone. But I started getting some better shows. I was playing like some stuff at the Cincinnati Zoo, some corporate stuff. And then like going into 2019, I started feeling a little bit better. And it just, I don't know why this luck keeps happening to me, but as it came out of 2019, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start recording in 2020. I'm going to get back out there. I started reaching out to people, trying to, you know, talking to people about like Whispering Beard Folk Festival and a few of the festivals that were happening that weren't around, I think, when I left for San Diego. But I was really excited about it. And then of course, you know, we all know what happened in 2020. So it was kind of like that full steam ahead. And then it was like another, just like pulling the rug out from under you kind of moment. So all we can do is cross our fingers and hope 2021 has better.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
So, you then recorded your EP. When was that?
That was actually not too long before I headed to San Diego. I think it was.
Oh, you did that before you went to California?
Yeah, before I went to California. Elton Clifton was the one, New Fidelity Studios. We started out, I was wanting to record, and at the time, Elton was still doing some recording at his home. So I had the luck of getting a pretty deep discount because he was pretty much doing it for free at that time. And so we did 2 songs in his basement, using some Pro Tools and the plugins and stuff he had there. But he was actually in the middle of transitioning to New Fidelity Studios because I think he just started that job. So everything was going to move to New Fidelity. But we basically, I think it was Run Honey Run, and I want to say, I can't remember if it was Road Song or Home. We did 2 songs in his basement. The first thing, and you and I talked about this before we started the podcast, but it was, I think I kind of got him irritated because the fact, and this is going to, you know, people might relate who just started recording, and engineers will probably relate to this story. He was a great musician himself. He was adding things to my song. Run Honey Run was the song he first started with. So I went and recorded my part, my acoustic guitar, my lyrics, and my vocals, I'm sorry. And within the week, he texted me like 11:30 at night one night. He's like, hey, I want to send you something. Check this out. See, you know, give me some feedback. And he sent the song, and all of a sudden had a mandolin part and like an extra guitar. I was like, this is amazing. And I had a SoundCloud. So just being the naive musician I am, like, this is amazing. I immediately put on SoundCloud. And so then, I don't think he saw the first one. Then I think he added like a little percussion, like just something simple, like a shaker to it, just to add to fill out the ending of the song, the crescendo of the song. And, he sends that to me. I put it on SoundCloud and he sees it. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Dude, it's amazing." He's like, "Yeah, but you got to wait." And I did it. I did it one more time, and then finally he's like, "Dude, you got to stop." Because the song's not finished yet. And finally, I gave it, and I think it was about a week and a half before he felt comfortable enough to send me the final draft that he had and to see what I thought of it. And I hadn't, since Endive, I hadn't recorded anything in a studio. So it was like, I'd be honest with you. I mean, I had a tear in my eye with the first time I heard it. So Elton, if you listen to this, dude, you made me cry when you sent that song to me, because it was just amazing. And if you guys have a chance, it's all over any streaming service that's out there under my name, Josh Ferreira. So, but he sent that song to me, and it was just like, I was in tears. It was just he did such a beautiful job with it.
Hell yeah. Road Song is also on that.
Yes.
Yes. Well, let's take a break and have a listen to that.
All right.
Miles outside San Diego County line, sunset has left me far behind. Asphalt grist my tires, my eyes are heavy enough to fall as I put a little more grit into my crawl. And these thoughts don't seem to bother. Another old song fills my lungs, and I'm waiting for the silence, baby. I love to hear it hum. Silhouettes of mountaintops, exit signs and one-horse stops. Those thoughts of love, they keep me on my way. Week-long stretch of solitude, one more hour just to get me through and unpack the burdens of being without you. And these thoughts don't seem to bother. Another old song fills my lungs, and I'm waiting for the silence, baby. I love to hear it hum. No, these thoughts don't seem to bother. Another road song fills my lungs, and I'm waiting for the silence, and baby, I love to hear it hum. No, these thoughts don't seem to bother. Another road song fills my lungs, and I'm waiting for the silence, baby. I love to hear it hum.
All right. Killer stuff.
Thank you. It's one of my favorite songs I've written, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that one. It's really good. How do you find the time to write?
As of right now, it's like I said before, it's I guess, well, that's not really answering the question. So basically, I have to find time because, as I kind of touched on this just on maybe one sentence or two, but my wife has health issues. So up until now, I've pretty much been her caretaker. So trying to find time to actually take time to write songs has been more difficult over the past year or two because of her health issues. But with that being said, when she sleeps, she sleeps like a champ. Like, so, so she has a couple days where she's up. It's kind of a cycle she goes through sometimes. So she's up like 24 to 36 hours because of pain management issues. When she finally does crash, she sleeps for like a day. So I usually have a day to myself to kind of pick up a guitar, noodle around. So it's not like I can have a set schedule where I can sit down and do it. But now it's like usually about twice a week, but that's kind of how I have to work around it now because of her schedule. So
any way you get to it.
yeah, exactly. Anyway, I can get to it.
What's your influences?
My influences, well, because I am from Indiana, one of my major influences is John Mellencamp. But that type of songwriting, the 80 rock songwriting, like him, Tom Petty, those guys are kind of they are pretty much what do you call it? The blueprint, I guess, of how I became a songwriter or started songwriting. When I was younger, it was more influenced by rock bands like Boston and, anything that was 70s rock was a bigger influence because I play a lot of electric guitar in my first couple bands actually. But once I got out of playing like rock music, my songwriting style really kind of reflected more of that kind of Midwest songwriting style that came through, especially more, I think, in Mellencamp style than Tom Petty style. But there are a few other artists that I kind of came up and took some things from over the past maybe couple of decades. There's a artist named Martin Sexton who I love. Sean Mullins is another one. Just because they didn't write your basic strumming cowboy chords, sing a song. And I think that's part of like how my songwriting evolved. I do have quite a few songs where I just play chords and strum and I get into a pattern and just play that. But as you can tell from some of my songs, my picking styles, especially for road song, I mean, that was not like, that didn't come out of like a chord progression. I just actually came up with a riff and then everything kind of centered around that. The first song that I played, Till God Commands, was actually one of the few songs I've written that was more of a strumming style. And I think as I get older, I think I probably get into this cowboy chord. Like I just want to write sentimental songs. Almost all my songs are about love. That's kind of what they almost all revolve around of some way or some sort. It's either written about relationships that I've been in or family members or my wife. So, my style of writing is kind of more geared towards, it's kind of evolved over the years. So I don't know if that even really answered the question.
Well, who's your favorite local artist?
Oh my gosh. Favorite local artist. Trying to really think hard on this one because there are a few people that I've become really good friends with in the local scene. Kyla Manus, who is a phenomenal singer, has pipes like nobody's business. I mean, the girl can sing. I absolutely love her. Oh my gosh. It's really hard to just nail like one specific artist down. I know Ronnie Vaughn. I like Ronnie Vaughn as a very, very good songwriter. There are a few groups that are Cincinnati, like See You and the Funnies, they're a really good band. Yeah, it's really hard to kind of nail like one specific person down. There are certain artists that have different genres of music that I really, really like, but those are a couple of the people that I really, really like though.
Cool. What's your favorite venue to play around town?
Well, this answer is going to be very biased because of a show I had earlier this year. I played Northside Tavern for the first time, February of 2020. Actually, it's last year now. 2 days past last year. So I played Northside Tavern, and the people there, that came out were just amazing. Like I've played some original shows where it's just kind of like you kind of sink yourself and you go inwards because you're not getting a lot of response from the crowd. You're just kind of playing. So you kind of have to go inwards to kind of feel the vibe yourself to, even get through the show because you're not really getting a lot of good response from people. You might have a few like golf claps here and there. I played Northside Tavern in February, and I had a few songs where I kind of like coached the crowd a little bit. It's like, well, here's the chorus. It's a very simple chorus. And like they sang it back to me. They were very vocal. Like it was one of the best gigs that I have ever played. And I've played gigs with my previous bands, a place like Mad Frog here in Cincinnati, and a few of the other venues. I think we played when I was in Endive, we played Southgate House before it became Thompson House, and the Southgate House moved to the new venue it's at. And even those shows, I mean, this don't even compare to the one I had at Northside Tavern. It might not be Northside Tavern. It might have been the night we had there, but that was my favorite gig I ever played.
It's always great when the crowd's into it. And
exactly.
Yeah. What's the best song you have?
All right. Now, I'm going to say Run, Honey, Run. And I'm hoping that Joellen Whetstone's going to hear this because I've had a few people who really like the song, who constantly like will go to Spotify or Apple Music and share it on their page because they really like the song. But anytime I play out, there are a handful of people who actually, I'm pretty much an upstart artist even at 45 years old, but there are a few people who come out to my shows who actually, when they come out, I get a request for that song more than any of my other songs. And I honestly thought at this point that Road Song was going to be like the big song that, however big it was going to be for like my little community here in Cincinnati. But Run, Honey, Run is probably the best song I've ever written, I would say. And I would say Elton Clifton had a lot to do with that just because of the touches he put on it when we recorded the EP too.
What's your plans for 2021?
2021. Now, my plans as opposed to Mother Nature's plans and otherworldly plans, there might be different, but my goal this year is to, I want to record another EP, put together a band. I would love to play some of the festivals. I know it's going to be difficult. Like I think you and I talked about this before we started here. I'd love to play Whispering Beard Folk Festival. There are tons of festivals out there I'd love to play this year. I know it's going to be difficult because there are so many great artists who were basically chalked to play those festivals last year that got canceled. And if they do come back this year, of course, they're going to get preferential treatment for that, which is perfectly, that's going to be an understandable thing because they didn't get to play last year. But I'm hoping somehow I'll be able to sneak my way onto a couple of these festivals and play those this year. I would like to tour, even if it's regional, doing like, here, maybe down in Tennessee, go up to like northeastern Ohio towards Cleveland, maybe over into Indiana, maybe a few other states besides that, just down in Kentucky, Tennessee. I've reached out to a couple of places in Lexington about playing some shows. Most of them are singer-songwriter rounds just to kind of get out there and mingle with some other artists as well. But that's kind of my 2021 goal, is to record more, get more original shows. Because as of right now, you can pretty much see me anywhere in Cincinnati playing cover shows. But as much as I'd love the venues and the people that work there, and the restaurants and bars I play, it's my goal to actually attain some sort of credibility as an original artist starting this year. So
it's always nice being able to play your own stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is. And with that too, you also get to play with a lot of other great artists, which is, I don't ever get out to see that often. So
it's so much more difficult
doing original shows.
Get out there and do original shows. Yeah.
I think to me, the difficult part is actually a sell of original music.
It's hard to make any money.
Yeah.
Playing original music.
Yeah. It's much more satisfying to play original music. I don't think it's hard to play original music. I think it's just much harder to gain some sort of following doing it. There are groups in Cincinnati that already have a niche, and they play the festivals every year, and that's kind of where I want to get to. Just starting out this year is just basically getting myself involved in those communities, because there's a lot of great artists, and I'd like to get on some bills with them. So
Yeah. Great. Well, let's take a break and listen to one more song.
all right.
Hey, North Carolina, I'm about to cross your line. I've been driving all night to be right by your side, packed with rhythm and blues and a vagabond grin, seeking forgiveness for my sins. So hello to your avenues in a new state of mind, though I'm reminiscing on the ones I've left behind. Maybe she'll be crazy enough to take me back one day, but until then I'll have to stay, because Virginia is for lovers. Right now I'm only passing through, and Virginia is for lovers, and I'm looking for another to help me get back to Virginia. Hey, North Carolina, I'm about to pass your way. Got a devil in tow that I can't seem to shake. He's got a warm cup of coffee and the story he loves to tell. It's a story I know too well, that Virginia is for lovers. Right now I'm only passing through, and Virginia is for lovers, and I'm looking for another to help me get back to Virginia. One more dance upon your shoreline, love letters written in your sand, making wishes underneath your starlight, hoping that you might understand. Virginia, oh Virginia, Lord Virginia, Virginia is for lovers. Right now I'm only passing through, and Virginia is for lovers, and I'm looking for another to help me get back to Virginia. Well, you know, right now I'm only passing through, and Virginia is for lovers, and I'm looking for another to help me get back to Virginia.
All right, good stuff.
Thank you.
So, where do people find you at? Social media and whatnot.
The easiest place to go is my website, which is joshuafmusic, So it's Joshua F as in Ferreira or Frank, however you prefer the to figure that out. So joshuafmusic.com. If you go to that, you can actually link up to all my social media accounts, whether it's Instagram, Facebook. I think I still have Twitter on there, possibly SoundCloud. So it's all there. If you want to stream my music, it's pretty much on every streaming service from, Apple Music and Spotify to Deezer and what are some of the others? Tidal. It's on Tidal, yeah. Anywhere music is streamed, you can pretty much find it. And I think even iTunes, while they're still up. I don't know if they're still up at this point. So
yeah. Sweet. Yeah. He's got some good videos on YouTube as well.
Cats playing with dogs.
He did String of Hope earlier. Was it earlier this year, last year?
I want to say it was earlier this year, right before everything hit. Yeah, it was actually, I take that back. It was at the end of December in December, I think is when it happened, because I played the show at Northside Tavern not too long. It was a couple months after that. So yeah. And it's when I first played Rise Like Fire at that show. So yeah.
Those guys put out such a good product too.
They do.
Everything comes out looking really good. It sounds great.
And I was actually lucky to be part of that, because most stuff they do through A String of Hope is about addiction recovery, and I wasn't really in there for that. It was, the song I wrote was for my wife who's going through health issues. So it was, I think, kind of tied into it a little bit loosely. So I think that's why he was willing to have me in. So
right. And you said you was going to be doing Noah Smith's crooner.
Yeah,
circus?
yeah, the crooner circus, which happens on the 21st of January, and I'm 100% positive. I'm pretty sure it's at Big Ash Big Ash Brewing.
It will already have happened by the time you hear this. So.
Yeah, it'll already be happened. So, but I think Big Ash Brewing is like right before you get to Mount Washington, going up Beachmont Avenue. It's like a weird little spot. I don't know what even it's called.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, if you get a chance, go out to one of the crooner circuses. It's always a great time. Noah's a great artist, and he's always got great artists with him, so it's always a good time. Josh, thanks a lot for coming.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I really enjoyed myself.
Me too.
Thanks for sticking around till the end. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Josh was a really great hang. He also gives a great performance. I highly recommend going and checking him out. You can always find him on Facebook looking for his next gig. So if you're going to hire some live music, I would recommend reaching out to Josh there. Next time on ManHound Sound Sessions, from Rootbound, Ghost Mountain, and See You in the Funnies, I've got Josh Neckley coming on. He's a super talented songwriter, and as a musician, he's grade A. You don't want to miss that one. If you'd like to book some studio time, or just reach out and talk about the show, you can find us on Facebook or at manhoundsound@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Bill Wardlow. This has been ManHound Sound Sessions.